was driving through rural West Virginia one summer, just trying to make my way to a small town where my cousin had a cabin. The kind of place you go to unplug for a weekend. No cell service, just dirt roads and endless trees. And I remember the weather being unusually calm. No wind, just a heavy stillness in the air that made everything feel like it was holding its breath. I had been driving for a few hours when I noticed I was low on gas. So I started looking out for a gas station. Eventually I spotted one, a small run-down place with an old rusted sign that just said fuel. Nothing else, no brand, no digital display, just analog pumps and a flickering light over the single pump station. I pulled in, filled up, and went inside to pay. The man behind the counter didn't say much, just nodded and took my cash. And I went on my way. I figured I had maybe another 45 minutes to go, but as I kept driving, I started to notice something strange. The road was dead straight, but it felt like I wasn't making any progress. The GPS showed a straight line toward my destination, no turns, no exits, just forward. But then I saw that same gas station again, same flickering light, same rusted sign. At first I thought maybe I'd taken a wrong turn somehow, maybe looped back without realizing it. So I paid more attention the second time, tried to make mental notes of the trees, the signs, anything distinctive. But again, I drove straight, never turned, no forks in the road, nothing that would suggest I deviated from the path. And yet 20 or 30 minutes later, there it was again. The same station, same man inside, standing in the same spot, same nod. It was like the entire stretch of road was caught in some kind of glitch. I started to panic a little, checked my phone, no signal, tried to reset the GPS, but it kept showing the same line, insisting I was making progress, that I was close. But visually, everything was repeating over and over. I even tried turning around, thinking maybe I'd find an exit or a change of scenery going the other direction. But after another 15 minutes, I passed the gas station again, this time from the opposite side. And that's when I realized I wasn't just stuck on a loop, I was trapped in it. I started shouting in the car, hitting the steering wheel, trying to wake myself up or something, but nothing changed. The road, the trees, even the weather stayed exactly the same, like I was in a frozen moment that just kept refreshing itself. I thought maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe I had fallen asleep at the wheel and crashed and this was some kind of hallucination. But the pain in my chest from the anxiety, the way my hands shook on the wheel, the taste of stale air, all of it felt too real, too sharp. After what felt like hours, I pulled over and just sat there, engine running, staring at the trees. And that's when I noticed something even worse. The gas gauge had moved. It was still full, like I hadn't burned any fuel at all. I hadn't eaten, hadn't seen another car in hours, hadn't seen a person besides the man at the counter who never spoke a word, just that same nod, same glance. And it hit me that maybe I wasn't supposed to be there, like something was keeping me in that stretch of road, feeding off my confusion, the fear growing in my gut every time I realized I was back where I started. I don't know what finally broke the loop. Maybe it was when I stopped trying to leave, or maybe it just got bored with me. But after one more pass by the gas station, I saw a side road I swear hadn't been there before. Gravel and narrow, cutting through the woods at an angle. I took it without thinking, didn't care where it led. After a few bumpy miles, I found myself back on a main road. Real cars, real people. And when I looked back, the gravel road was gone. Just trees. Thick and silent. I never found that gas station again, no matter how many maps I checked. No one I asked had ever heard of it. And to this day, I won't drive through that part of West Virginia again, because whatever that loop was, it felt like it wasn't done with me. Like if I go back, I might not get out next time.
The plan was simple: Nevada, sunshine, and family time. But that road trip with my wife and daughter turned into something else entirely. We'd been driving for hours across long stretches of desert with barely any towns in sight, and it was getting late. The sun had already dipped below the horizon and we were all tired. So when we saw a small neon sign blinking vacancy outside an old roadside motel, we didn't think twice. It was one of those single-story places, kind of U-shaped, with the rooms facing the parking lot. There were maybe 10 rooms total. The sign just said Desert Inn, and the place looked like it hadn't been updated since the 70s. The office had yellowed windows and an old bell on the counter, and the man behind it was this older guy with deep lines in his face and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. But he was polite enough, handed me a key to room 6, said it was the quietest one, at the end of the row. We parked right in front of the door, brought in our bags, and despite how run down the place was, the room itself was clean, simple. 2 queen beds, old patterned wallpaper peeling slightly at the corners, a small bathroom with flickering fluorescent lights, and a noisy air conditioner that clunked every few minutes. But it felt like heaven compared to the hours we'd spent on the road. We watched some TV, ate some snacks we had in the car, then all crashed early. Sometime in the middle of the night, I thought I heard voices outside, like murmuring, maybe another family arriving late, but I was too tired to get up and check. In the morning, we packed up our things and I walked outside with my daughter to grab breakfast from the vending machine near the office. But the weird thing was, there was no vending machine, no office, no row of rooms. We were standing in the middle of a wide gravel lot with nothing but dirt and brush, and a few broken wooden posts sticking out of the ground like rotten teeth. I spun around thinking maybe we'd walked in the wrong direction, but there was nothing. No buildings, no motel sign, no other cars. There was nothing but our only car there, an empty space and a wide open Nevada sky. I started yelling for my wife and she came running, barefoot and panicked, asking where everything went. She had been in the bathroom when we stepped out and said the door slammed shut behind us like the wind had caught it. But when she opened it again, it led straight outside to this empty field. No hallway, no motel room, just the lot. We wandered around for hours, hoping to find someone, a road, anything. Eventually, we hiked toward what looked like a distant billboard and found a gas station on the highway. The guy inside looked confused when we asked about the Desert Inn. Said that place had burned down more than 15 years ago. Said it had been abandoned even before that, back in the late 90s. And nobody had stayed there in decades. I pulled out my phone to show him pictures we had taken the night before in the motel room, and that's when it got even weirder. The photos were gone. Nothing in the gallery, just a blank space where those images should have been, like they never existed. No charge on my credit card either, no transaction, no receipt, no trace we had ever been there. My daughter kept asking if we were dreaming or if this was some kind of trick, and honestly, I didn't know what to tell her. Weeks later, we drove through the area again during daylight and tried to find the place, just to prove to ourselves that something had been there. But the lot we stopped at was nothing more than cracked concrete, patches of weeds, and a broken down sign frame with no letters left on it, just rust and emptiness. Every local we asked gave us the same answer. The motel burned down years ago, and a few even said they'd heard stories of travelers claiming to stay there long after it was supposedly gone. I still don't know what happened that night or how to explain it, but every so often I have this vivid image flash in my head. The room, the buzzing light, the old bedspread with faded flowers, the sound of someone talking just outside our door in the dark. And I wonder if maybe whatever that place was, it wasn't meant for us to find. Or worse, it let us in on purpose and then decided to let us go, but not before making sure we'd never forget it.
I was driving through this stretch of road that cuts between California and New Mexico and actually hits that remote canyon area in Nevada. And at around 2 or 3 in the morning, me and my friend were in this old red car that had seen better days, but somehow made it through the deserts of California and into Nevada. We were exhausted from hours of driving, but we were joking and laughing about stupid things when suddenly I saw what looked like 2 bodies laying on the side of the road. My heart dropped. I slammed on the brakes and we skidded to a stop. The headlights revealed 2 motionless figures lying face down on the gravel. Their clothes looked torn and dusty, like they had been dragged or abandoned hours ago.
My friend asked in a shaky voice if we should check closer. I said yes, though every instinct screamed no. We grabbed our phones and stepped out, our shoes crunching on gravel. The wind was cold and unbelievably silent. We called out to them. No response. After a few seconds, I sensed something shifting in the tall grass behind the bodies, a faint movement. I froze, and my friend whispered he saw it too. Within moments, several people emerged from the shadows, out of the dark bushes. They looked human enough, but there was something off about the way they moved, almost robotically. Their faces obscured by shadows, but I thought I saw glimpses of metallic objects in their hands, maybe flashlights or tools. I yelled to my friend to run, and he turned to sprint when I heard a voice whispering from the darkness telling us to stop. I grabbed the passenger door of the red car and pulled as hard as I could. My friend jumped in, I threw myself into the driver's seat. The engine roared as I slammed it into gear and we peeled out of there, leaving gravel flying behind us. Behind the bushes, those figures didn't give chase, but I swear they watched us as we disappeared into the night. Our hearts pounding, we drove in silence for what felt like forever. Then, at a tiny gas station in the middle of nowhere, we pulled over, gasping for air, clutching the wheel. My friend dialed 911, reporting bodies on the side of the road. He described the people who appeared after that. The dispatcher sounded skeptical, but promised she would send someone. I tried to calm my breathing and looked at our GPS coordinates and logged them because I had a weird feeling we needed to come back. After we regained some composure, we decided to return to the spot to see if whatever was there before was still there. It felt reckless, but something inside me pushed for closure. We got back to the same mile marker, the red car idling under the pale moonlight. We got out slowly, flashlight in hand. I searched where the bodies had been lying. No trace. Not a single scrap of clothing, no blood, no signs of struggle. I checked the bushes frantically where I thought I saw movement. Nothing. Everything was undisturbed, like the scene had been scrubbed clean. We double-checked our GPS location. It was the exact spot that we had marked before, and I still had the feeling of dread as if someone had wiped the scene completely during the hours we were gone. My friend leaned over the gravel and looked around in disbelief while I stood by the car ready to bolt at the slightest hint of danger. We found only tumbleweeds and pebbles, just the empty road stretching on forever. There was no evidence of bodies, no witnesses, no nearby surveillance, nothing. We sat in the car for another hour shaking before deciding to leave. We never saw those figures again, and no report ever came from law enforcement. Nothing was ever confirmed. Nobody called to say they found 2 bodies on that stretch of highway. We went home and life returned to normal. But something changed in me from that night. I kept replaying the moment of stepping out of the car and seeing those bodies, and then the figures emerging from the grass. I questioned my own sanity for weeks. I kept the GPS coordinates a secret between me and my friend, and we never returned there again. Months passed, then I told my brother about it, and he checked local reports. There were no missing persons identified in that area during that time. Nothing that matched our description. It was as if the whole thing never happened, except in my memory. I still see the shapes standing still in the darkness. I still feel the cold wind on my neck and the pounding of our hearts. I know we were too far out in the desert alone, and maybe something unexplainable used that silence and isolation to stage something that looked real but vanished without a trace. I don't have a logical explanation. I never found out if those bodies were ever found, or if those people we saw in the bushes were real or hallucinations. I only know that when I think back to that night in my red car, next to that canyon road, it all feels eerily vivid, and the unanswered questions still haunt me to this day.
It was late at night, and I was behind the wheel with 2 friends, pushing through a long drive from North Carolina to Indiana, none of us knowing what was waiting along the way. It was one of those endless stretches of interstate where you feel like time stops, and the only thing that exists is the sound of the tires humming against the asphalt. We had been on the road for almost 10 hours, and were desperate to stop somewhere to rest. So when we saw a dimly lit truck stop sign glowing faintly in the distance, we took the exit without thinking much about it. The place looked old and kinda eerie as we pulled in. There were a couple of broken lights flickering, the lot was cracked with weeds poking through, and a few abandoned trailers sitting around. The convenience store building stood there with a faded sign and dark windows. It looked empty, but not completely abandoned, like maybe someone still used it occasionally. We parked near the side and went in. The door creaked loud and there was a smell of dust and something stale in the air. The inside had a few shelves, all empty, a counter with an old register, and a small seating area with a couple of torn booths. There was no one around, no staff, no other customers. We called out but got no answer. It was weird, but we were exhausted, so we decided to crash in the car for a few hours. As we settled into sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Every few minutes I'd glance toward the building or the trailers, expecting to see someone. Nothing, just the faint buzz of a dying light. At some point during the night, I woke up to what sounded like distant footsteps crunching on gravel. I sat up and looked around but saw nothing. My friend mumbled that he thought he saw someone walking by the building earlier but dismissed it as a shadow. We were too tired to care, so we went back to sleep. At dawn, the sunlight woke us up, and I immediately noticed something strange. The building looked different in daylight, more decayed, windows boarded up, roof partially caved in. It looked like it had been abandoned for years. We got out of the car confused because this wasn't how it looked last night. We walked to the entrance and saw the door chained shut with a heavy padlock and thick layers of dust covering everything. Even our tire tracks from the night seemed partially faded, like they had been there for a long time. The inside, through the cracks, looked like it hadn't been touched in ages. We left in silence, all of us feeling uneasy. Later that day, we stopped at a diner down the road and told the waitress about the truck stop. She froze, then told us that place burned down years ago after a series of mysterious disappearances. She said locals believe it's haunted and that people still claim to see lights there at night, even though it's been abandoned. We didn't believe her at first, so we drove to the local sheriff's office to ask about it. The deputy gave us a look like he'd heard the story 1,000 times and just said that if we value our sanity, we should forget about that place. He mentioned old police reports about truckers who vanished after stopping there, with no signs of foul play, no evidence, just gone, and rumors about ghostly figures seen near the pumps. He told us flat out that people who stick around that area too long sometimes disappear too. We left shaken and decided not to push it any further. When we looked up the location on our phones later that day, we found an old article about the truck stop's history. It detailed the unsolved cases and how the site had been closed permanently. The photos in the article matched exactly what we saw in the morning. Boarded up and decayed, nothing like how it appeared to us the night before. We tried to rationalize it. Maybe we were so tired we imagined the lights and open door. Maybe our minds played tricks on us. But deep down, none of us believed that because we all experienced the same thing, and there's no way 3 people hallucinate the same details. To this day, when I think about that night, I still see the flickering lights in my head. I still remember the smell inside the building and the sound of footsteps crunching on gravel when no one was there. We still have the GPS pin of where we stopped, but we've never gone back. And whenever I drive that route again, I take a completely different path, because whatever we experienced that night felt real enough to convince me that some places are better left alone. Haunted or not, something about that truck stop is wrong, and I know I'll never forget it.
Colorado duty had become routine until one night, a few of us from the unit took a wrong turn that led us into something we still can't explain. I was stationed with a few guys from my unit, and after a brutal week of drills, we decided to blow off some steam with a late-night drive through the back roads outside of Fort Carson, just to clear our heads and feel like civilians again for a minute, you know? Something about the cool air and open roads makes you forget the grind for a while. But there was this one road, this stretch of old highway our CO once joked about during mess, saying it was haunted by a phantom Camaro, some urban legend among soldiers. A blacked-out muscle car that would tailgate you out of nowhere, then disappear before you could even react. And like idiots, or maybe just guys starving for adrenaline, we made it our destination that night, laughing at the idea of getting chased by a ghost car, thinking it would just be another story we'd embellish at the bar later. So we drove out around midnight, 5 of us packed into my buddy's SUV, music low, windows down, headlights slicing through the darkness like we were hunting shadows. And the further we got from town, the quieter it became. No other cars, no houses, just trees and the sound of tires on old asphalt. Until we hit that curve, the one locals said marked the entrance to where the Camaro shows up. And honestly, it felt like the whole world changed right there. Like we drove through some invisible curtain because the air got heavier, the forest seemed to pull in closer, and even the stars looked dimmer above us. But still, nothing happened. At first, we joked about being disappointed, about how legends always let you down. And then someone in the back said, "Wait, who the hell is that?" And I looked into the side mirror, and I swear on everything I've got, there it was, the faint glow of headlights. No engine noise, no gravel kicking up, just 2 dim orbs creeping up on us from way too far back on a dead road. And the weirdest thing was that we hadn't passed any cars for over an hour, and there was no road behind us for miles. But this thing kept coming, slowly at first, then faster. And before we could even say a word, it was right on our tail, like inches from the bumper. And that's when we saw it. Matte black, old school Camaro, windows blacked out, no plate, no driver, just this machine flying at us like it wanted to eat the whole truck. So my buddy slammed on the gas, and we tore through those bends like madmen, tires squealing, hearts pounding, and no matter how fast we went, it stuck to us like a shadow, even mimicking our turns perfectly, like it was part of the road. And at one point, I leaned out the window to get a better look, and what I saw still messes me up to this day. Inside the car, there was nothing, just a thick darkness where the driver should have been. Not like it was empty, but like something was absorbing the light, like the interior was a hole in the world. And then, just as sudden as it appeared, it swerved off the road and vanished into the woods without a trace. No skid marks, no broken branches, nothing. And we pulled over gasping, half laughing, half panicking, like we didn't know whether to cry or throw up, but we knew, we all knew, we saw something real, something not supposed to exist. And none of us have ever taken that road again. We don't even talk about it much because every now and then one of us will get a weird feeling on a normal drive and look in the mirror and swear for a split second they see those headlights again, just waiting, just watching.